Welcome back, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. Well, today guys, in today's episode, we are gonna be talking wheels and tires. But before we get started, guess what? No longer Movember. I don't need this mustache anymore. Let's change that real quick before we get started. So much better. All right, let's get into it. All right guys, enough goofing around. I thought I'd have a little bit of fun with that. I've been looking forward to shaving that thing off for weeks now. I'm glad it's done. All right, so a lot of you have been asking since I put my last couple of videos out, especially the one about the brakes and suspension, what wheel and tire I was running, how I was able to make all that fit. I kind of explained it in some of the other videos, but I want to go over more specifically the wheels that I have from Apex, as well as my Nitto NT01s, the combination I chose, why I chose them, and how I felt they've worked out for me over the last season. I've done about 4 or 5 track days on them, so I think I've got a pretty good idea of how they've been working out so far for me. They've been a great wheel, a great tire, and I'm gonna kind of start off with the wheels first, and then we'll move into the tires and we'll kind of go over the details. So first off guys, I'm running the Apex EC7s in an 18x11, and it's a 52 offset. So I'm actually running the exact same wheel in all 4 corners. Nothing's changed. And the way I'm able to do that on my particular car, and what you're gonna have to do on your cars, like I mentioned in the other videos, is you're gonna have to run longer wheel studs, you're gonna have to run a Watts link in the rear, and you're gonna need to run a spacer in the front. And that's really gonna vary depending on what suspension you have in the front. I'm running the Cortex coilovers. They actually have that option on them where you can offset the front coilover, so you can actually get a little bit more room in there so you don't have to run as big of a spacer. And I've actually got them right here. So this is the spacer that I run. This is a 15mm spacer from OP Mustang, beautifully made. They are hub centric, like I mentioned in the other video. So as you can see, they extend the same way the factory hub would. So your wheel is actually still fitting perfectly tight to that as if it was fitting onto the factory wheel hub itself. There's no difference here, and especially when you're running a longer wheel stud, it really doesn't change anything. Now, it's no different if this metal was actually a part of the back of the wheel hub itself or a separate hub. The only disadvantage to doing that with some of the competitor wheels that you could look at is you now can't rotate them. And this particular tire can actually be rotatable. So you're gonna always be running the same wheels in the front and then the same ones in the back. So it's just like having a staggered setup. Even though the width is the same, you can't rotate. So it kind of, in my opinion, defeats the purpose. So again, 15mm if you're running that type of setup. You might be able to run lower, I'm not sure, but on mine, you know, it looks like I could maybe squeak something down, but I've been happy with this one so far. The wheel doesn't stick out past the fender, so I'm giving myself a little bit of clearance. Might as well just keep it on there, right? Now, if you're running a relatively stock setup in the front, whether it be like your regular shocks or your struts in the front, or you've got a different brand coilover that doesn't do that offset, you might need to run this guy. This is a 25mm. This is what Corey at Apex recommended, and he's been a great guy. He's very active in the Mustang community. He's on the Facebook forums, Track Mustang Online, so a great person to reach out to if you have any questions about your Mustang setup. He's definitely the go-to guy for it. And one of the things he mentioned before I got the coilovers was, this is kind of the bare minimum you're gonna need to run. Again, same idea, it's from OP Mustang. Again, this is one of their first generation ones. Their newest version, they've actually got cutouts here to reduce the weight, which is really cool. But in this version, which I never even actually ran, I bought these before I bought the coilovers, hence why I have both. Yeah, you're just getting 25mm. You still got the same hub centric there, so doing the same idea, same concept. It's gonna fit in there perfectly. You're not gonna have any play here. The wheel's not gonna bounce around. You're not getting any play around your studs. It's no different than having this extra material machined into the back of the wheel. So these are a must-have. Now, a couple things to know about Apex wheels that I thought was really important to know. They actually get their wheels tested. They're load tested to 1,600 pounds per wheel. They've done the JWL and VIA certification on their wheels, which is really important because there's a lot of aftermarket companies out there that make wheels for all sorts of cars, and they don't show that they're getting them tested. So you have no idea if they're actually going to be able to take the pressure and load ratings you're going to put on these things, especially when you're doing road racing, when you're doing track days, high performance driving education like I do. You know, I hit the curb with these things hard sometimes, and they're not bending, they're not cracking. I'm not worried about them whatsoever. You should check them after every season just to make sure, but so far they've held up extremely well. One of the other nice things is the factory wheel, at least on the Boss 302, is about 31 pounds for just the rim. These guys are coming in at 24 pounds or just a little bit less, so you're saving a significant amount of weight and rotating mass on this one as well. The other cool thing is, as you guys know in my video, I'm running the 13-14, so Shelby GT500 6-piston brakes in the front, and these things have loads of clearance for those. No brake caliper clearance issues whatsoever. There's a horrible photo out there somewhere. If I can find it, I'm gonna put it in right now, of a guy who actually machined the back of his rim to try and get clearance for his brakes. You can see how that worked out for him. Not great idea. So these ones, you don't have to worry about that whatsoever. They come in a couple of different colors. I went with black, you know, with the black accents on my car, the stripes and everything. I thought that would look really good in the photos and everything else you guys have seen online, my Instagram account. I think they look great, so I'm quite happy with them in that. So that's the Apex EC7 wheel. Like I said, for a track wheel, for the price, it's unbelievable. There are some really awesome wheels out there, but some of them, an entire set of Apex costs the same as just one wheel. And if you are road racing it, you're gonna get tons of brake dust in these things. You're gonna get the little pieces of rubber sticking inside them. They're kind of gonna get trashed. They're not like a show wheel that you're just going to the local car show or coffee shop to show off your car, right? These things are meant to work and go to work, and they've been working really well for me, so I highly recommend them. All right, now we're gonna talk about the tire, guys. All right, so lots of tire options out there for the Mustang, especially in this tire size. The two big ones are gonna be the Nittos, like what I have here, and there's also a Toyo version. Fun little fact, Nitto and Toyo are actually kind of sister companies, so I don't know how much of a difference between the two tires really are, but after talking to a lot of guys, especially at Cortex and actually at Apex as well, they both highly recommended this tire to me. A lot of guys are running it, so I decided to give it a shot. Now, as you can see, there's still a fair amount of tread on it. It may not look like there's a lot of tread, but when you get these tires brand new, there's not a lot of tread depth to begin with. So after 4 track day events, probably putting another 5,000 kilometers on them just driving around, they're still holding up really well. I think I can probably get another season out of them for sure. The only thing that I would start to get concerned about is the driving to and from the track. Now, these are DOT approved, meaning you can legally drive from your house to the track and back home again, no problem. But these tires work really well once they get down and they're become a slick. A lot of guys actually say that's when they're the best and you're gonna get your fastest times. But once they get down to that point, you really shouldn't be driving on the street with them. You already shouldn't be driving with these tires in the rain. I've done it. When I drove down from Vancouver, British Columbia here, where I'm based out of, all the way down to the Ridge, which is just outside of Kent, Washington, it was raining, and we're on the I-5 going through Seattle and everything else. I didn't feel sketchy at all, but the tires are still relatively new, and I just kind of took my time. I went the speed limit, right? So 90 kilometers an hour is about 55, 60 miles an hour for you guys in the States, and I didn't feel like I had any issues. But if there's any large standing water, so pools of water, you're gonna hydroplane. You're gonna hydroplane in any car, and in a tire like this with these large tread blocks like this, it's not gonna evacuate the water as well as some other tires would, so you're gonna hydroplane for longer or worse, and that's where you might really wanna consider not running this tire in those situations. A track day that's been a little bit wet and rainy, once these things get up to like a nice temperature, they've been okay for me. And I did actually do a little bit of tracking in the morning at Mission recently when it was still a bit wet out. It hadn't rained in a while, but it was still wet, a little bit of morning dew. So the track was wet and we were waiting for it to dry up. So my first 20-minute session out was wet and they were great. I didn't have any kind of unsettling feelings like these things aren't going to perform very well for me. So I was quite happy with them. Now, tire temperatures. Now, I'm not an expert by any means. I'm just kind of looking at it probably like you are yourself. When you go out on the track, what are you gonna expect? What's it gonna feel like? To me, these took about 2 laps to really get up to temperature before I felt like I could really trust them and start to push them a little bit more. Around laps 4 and 5 and 6, they were kind of at their optimal. I was really noticing they were gripping extremely well. And towards the end of the 20-minute session, they held on really well for me. But I've heard some people say that after a few heat cycles in them and they start to get towards the end of their life, especially in tread, you might start to get that greasy feeling where they're a little bit slippery. But for me, so far, they've been awesome. I don't have anything directly to compare them to other than the Continental DWSs that I've run, but I ran those primarily on wet spring, kind of early spring track day events. I did that autocross event which you guys saw when it was freezing cold and raining, and those things are awesome for those conditions. But when it comes to a dry summer competition track day autocross tire, this has been my choice. I've been extremely happy with it. As far as weight, I'm not certain if it's going to weigh more or less than some of its competitors, so you might want to look that up. I don't know if that's going to be a major deciding factor for you or not. It wasn't for me. I was looking more so at the wheel and how I can shave weight in the wheel itself. But the tire's been great. I've been super happy with them. I don't know if when they burn out, if I'm just going to get another set, or maybe I'll try the Toyos, the R888R, which is the new variant of the R888. And the R888, not a lot of muscle car guys, heavier set car guys, like anything over 3,000 pounds like we are, we're 3,600, 3,800 pounds. Not a lot of guys are running that tire, but they're starting to actually run the new version, and I'm curious to see the results. I don't know if you guys have them on your cards. Maybe leave a comment below. Let me know how it's been for you. I've seen a couple guys online that have them on Camaros, but you know, I don't know really. They're just driving around on the street, kind of trying to show off and make it look like they've got an aggressive tire, whereas I'm actually going out and tracking it hard. So I'm not certain how that one's going to try out. Maybe I will try it. Maybe I'll stick to these. These have been treating me extremely well, so I've been really happy with them so far. All right, guys, I hope that kind of helps answer a few questions. I know I couldn't find very much information on this tire or the wheel really online, so I wanted to kind of show you guys it. Do a couple of cool little B-roll shots there in the middle to kind of help you out and get you an idea what they look like up close. But if you have any other questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next week.